Good evening, David.
And ladies and gentlemen, our special guest for this evening is Mark Vass. Now, Mark's a farmer from the Burdekin area down in central Queensland. He's also a business owner in that region. And look, he's a busy man at the moment, so we really appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to join us this evening. He actually had to cancel last week because it's that busy, and we completely understand. Mark, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, Dave, and thanks for the invite and the opportunity to speak.
Oh, that's excellent, mate. We look forward to everything you have to say regarding central Queensland politics at large, and just a general state of things, whether it's sad or good. And, just get right into it. Mark, why don't we start with you just telling us what's going on at the moment? It's harvest down there, I believe, if you're growing cane, and it's just a busy time of the year for you, isn't it?
Yeah, so at the moment we've just wrapped up the official crushing for 2020. So all the cane's crushed within our area, and I think, I know all of the Wilmar mills are pretty much cut out now, so people are winding down. Once upon a time, this time, it would be busy for the next probably 2 weeks, and then whilst you're getting all your ground turned over and getting your fallow prepared, however, then it would generally be the slack, so you do maintenance, and we could get a bit of a break. We'd just be watering, but with everything we do now with alternate crops, and I'll have another business as well, which takes a fair bit of time as well. But yeah, alternate cropping, this is one of our busiest times of the year now, because not only have we just finished harvesting cane, so you're returning all your cane, we're also starting our summer plant for soybeans, and this year I'm growing peanuts, so it's just hectic at the moment. And we've just finished our winter harvest as well, so our winter plant, summer harvest, everyone says it different ways, but yeah, so we're offloading grain and pre-watering to plant the summer crop.
Mate, that's fantastic. It's a great insight into the actual practices that, even if you're predominantly, I don't know how large your operation is, but even if you're predominantly a cane farming sort of area like the Burdekin, traditionally is, and you go into the crop rotations of just about what the versatility in which you guys have to till in order to just keep that nitrogen up, so the cane can be so profitable when you do go to harvest it. And peanuts, whether it's peanuts or pumpkins or the other things, it's so versatile. It just goes to show that Central and North Queensland agriculture is so versatile, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we've got, in the last 5 years, whilst there's been a lot of drought down south, we've had a lot of agents coming up here, a lot of buyers coming up here looking for a drought-proof area like the Burdekin. We get 300 days of sunlight a year and a metre of rain or so we can grow pretty much anything up here that can handle heat. So yeah, we've been doing a lot with that, but also a lot of it comes back to what we're doing with trying to bring a bit of health back to our soils, and break that monoculture that sugarcane's been for so long. So
well,
we're constantly trying to change things, and honestly, we're seeing the results.
Well, it's only smart,
so
mate.
Much more healthier.
Yeah. It's only smart when you consider too, like you can't put all your eggs in one basket either. Like cane has always been traditionally in our areas and our regions a fantastic crop, but as the markets change on a global scale and stuff, it's good to have that versatility to be able to say, you know what, the market's low, we need to rotate crops anyway. Let's go for something that's going to both be a profitable crop, as well as if we have the opportunity next season or the season after to be able to go back to a more profitable product like cane. At least you have that choice, hey?
Yeah, and we're seeing the results through the whole farming system, basically. So the cane yields have improved, and profitability's improved because you've diversified, you spread your risk. But none of that helps when we keep getting whacked with a big stick. So that's always a challenge with what we do, and we're farmers seem to be the scapegoat in all of this.
I was leading towards that, Mark. You were a step ahead of me there, mate, because I was about to say it's a great example of the fantastic practices and world-leading practices that Australian farmers, Central Queensland, North Queensland farmers generally have, especially with the sensitivities that we might have being coastal agricultural communities next to something like one of the greatest ecosystems in the world. And none of us are ignorant of that, and especially you guys that till the soil to put food on our plates. And those best practices are constantly under attack from the bureaucracy of Queensland and have nothing but, like you say, a big stick to punish you for trying to be good at what you do. Have you got any examples of just where the constant battle of having to deal with this agenda of either soil erosion or runoff or poison, the use of poisons to actually mitigate any form of problems that may occur, like weeds and other pests that may occur on the land where your crops may be? Is there examples that you can just constantly say, I roll my eyes every time we have to do something because I know this is a waste of time?
Yeah, there is in a way. One of my biggest gripes is the way the data's collected, and you see, a lot of people don't understand. It's been a real blanket approach. So they've monitored the main big creeks across the north, basically. So in the Burdekin, that's the Bradders catchment, which captures about, I need to get this figure right, but I feel like it wouldn't be more than 10% of the whole area. So they're catching the runoff out of that creek, and there is some other smaller creeks which are monitored as well. However, it's a minute sample, and it's just blanket regulation across the whole industry. So where I am, it's the Delta. It was the original. The Delta is one of the original where it all pioneered from. That's where we all started in the Delta. We've got a massive aquifer underneath us. Our biggest problem is trying to get the water through, let alone having any runoff. So we're modelled based on Barada catchment, and this is the problem. It's a blanket approach. Every farm is different. We cannot, and then, rather than rewarding best practice and the industry as a whole, our BMP program has, I think we've got 50% of the ground is now accredited, which is massive compared to what we were compared to with the cotton, yet we just get hit with more regulation. So one of my biggest gripes is the fact that the data is then, it's taken from the Braddock catchment and then is modelled across the whole district as if we're all doing exactly what's happening in it's the worst 10%, basically. They've modelled the worst 10%. They've monitored the worst 10%, they've modelled the rest of the area around that.
And look, that's not surprising given the state of things. Exactly. I think Bill's of the same mindset. I think when they have a response like they did with the COVID-19 pandemic that's upon us now at the start of the year, and they basically make a blanket regulation for the whole of the state, not understanding that Central and North Queenslanders don't necessarily care about your restrictions when there's only 2 cases and they're probably isolated nonetheless, and there's no international tourists turning up. What is good for the southeast corner or the inner city Brisbane is not necessarily the case with somebody in the Burdekin or somebody in Bamaga. Definitely not in the Torres Strait Islands or Bamaga. But the point remains is you can't take an example of who might necessarily be not up to best practice when 90 or 80% of the farmers around them are. And I guess if you're going to be blanketed and put in the same basket when you're only doing right by everybody involved, that it's not necessarily the great thing. And I suppose that's the same approach that they took when it came to the Vegetation Management Act as well. They could have several examples of people that was their reasoning behind the implementation of that policy and that legislation now, but it's not necessarily viable on a day-to-day basis for the average farmer, is it? Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. So yeah, it's because I feel that it's because we're such an easy target. People don't understand that. They think that we're just pouring our fertilizer out into the river. Like, we spend our lives at the reef, going out fishing, scuba diving, spear fishing, you name it. We're there all the time. The last thing we want to do as a community, you go past every second house has got a boat here. The last thing people want to be doing is destroying. Farmers have said this is why we're trying to get up the Office of Science Quality Assurance. You know, we didn't have a win coming out of the Senate inquiry, but it was chaired by Labor, so we can't expect much more out of that. However, the Senate report did state that there is a need for the office, so we're really trying to get that up to try and let's have another look at the science and let's have a look at what underpins this regulation. We need more scrutiny on regulation that's going to, you know, affect people's livelihoods rather than the simple peer review process they're currently using.
Well, and that's the whole battle at the moment with
but
Professor Peter Reid, isn't it? Yeah, it's Bill. Yeah, go. Have your thought.
It's not just only the modelling that they use in regards to they actually take data from one spot, then extrapolate that out to the whole area sort of thing. It's even worse than that. It's when it comes to nutrients in the water from your fertiliser and runoff and that, the levels are already so small in the outflow that that's the only place they can measure it. They can't actually measure any volume, any fertiliser on the reef, out at the reef itself. So they find these spots in regards to where they can measure it on the outflows, and they just extrapolate some sort of figure and say, well, that's going out in the reef and that's damage to the whole reef. But the whole point is, if it's hardly detectable at the outflows, the level's hardly detectable at outflows, how can it possibly, you know, when you mix it with all that water that's coming down by the ocean currents, how can you get any reasonable figure for what fertilizers getting to the actual corals and the seagrass and things like that out in the reef? So that's another bit of worry. I think that's what Peter Reid was alluding to in a lot of things in regards to they're not really there is no real samplings on the reef itself. It's done inshore and then extrapolated out. And it's also things like sediment. There is no sediment on the reef. Like the corals and that aren't under, you know, millimetres of silt that's been washed out from the rivers. It's just not there, you know. So it's quite ludicrous. You know, I've only been to the reef a couple of times, but I've never seen, when you go to the sort of reefs like the common ones that we go out to here, like Arlington, that I haven't seen any silt lying on the seabed floor there. It seems to all be pretty well pristine sand, or chewed up coral as it is.
So basically, there's the whole fact that the sediment, fertiliser and pesticides, nitrates are getting to the Great Barrier Reef is just a myth. So we're used, how we get brought into the Great Barrier Reef is the fact that the Reef Lagoon is 5 kilometres offshore. So what in the city of Brisbane, the pollutants that were coming out of the Brisbane River and hitting all those reefs around there, and there's a lot of reefs around there, doesn't get the same scrutiny as what the Reef Lagoon is. So what we call the reef, what they call the Reef Lagoon is what we call, well, that's just
inshore,
offshore basically. All the inshore reefs, but it comes under the Great Barrier Reef. So what we're trying to do, and out of the Senate inquiry, there were a few admissions, and Dr. Paul Hardesty from AIMS did make some admissions, and a few of them were that farmers are in no way damaging the outer reef. And I'll encourage your listeners to go and find his exact quotes. And the other one is that arguably the inshore reefs, we potentially could be affecting 3%, where that's how much the runoff is affecting, and the pesticides they are. And I will admit, they are picking up minute levels of pesticides and nitrates in these catchments, but as Bill said, they're in the catchments themselves. They're not outside of the catchment, so they're absolutely going into the ocean, but they're the only places they can pick them up in the catchments. Once they're diluted that much, well, then they can't pick them up. So there is, you know, we've got to acknowledge that is happening, and that's something as an industry we need to work towards rectifying. However, there's still no data out there on what it's actually doing. And the other thing on nutrient cycling in the inner reef or in the Great Barrier Reef Lagoon, have a look at, Peter Ridd's spoken quite a few times of the amount of nutrients that's actually cycling in the Great Barrier Reef Lagoon, and then look at that number, and I don't even want to quote it because I don't know it, but that number compared to the number that they're modelling is coming out from farmers, and it's just like crazy. The amount of nutrients cycling in there is phenomenal compared to, naturally, that's what grows the seagrass, and that's what does everything.
Well, exactly. You know what, Mark? It's fantastic.
But I think one of the other things...
Sorry, Bill, go finish your thought, and then I'm going to have a thought on that.
I think Peter Ridd's argument basically was, in a lot of cases, is that in any 8-hour period, there's more water cycling through the reef from the ocean currents than comes out of all the river systems in central and north Queensland over an entire year. So what that's effectively saying, there's about 1,200 times more water circulating through the reef than that comes out from onshore. So that's the sort of dilution that you sort of got in regards to our outflows versus the natural flow of the ocean currents.
But I think this is the point as well, Mark, in my opinion, Mark. And I'm sure you're one of most farmers that would agree that locally, pesticides that might be generally a standard use in the agricultural sector, up and down the coast, while it may be present locally, that's not permissible for the whole heaping of guilt when it comes to any form of proof that pesticides cause any form of degradation or harm to the Great Barrier Reef, especially when these tests, as we've mentioned, are predominantly taken inshore to prove their presence, but it's not necessarily enough proof to form the guilt of any effect that it might have, because with the amount of volume of water that takes out and cycles through, we can only say that it's negligible at best, and possibly the harm could be coming from foreign contaminants, which are coming from the pollutants of the ocean at large. It's just absurd. And one of the things I always mention to people about the whole Professor Ridd's defence when he got the sack from JCU was the fact that how is it that the scientific community could be up in arms about a man who basically only has the same approach as a tradesman with his first year apprentice? It's you measure twice and you cut once, and I don't see how anyone would be against that being implemented into the scientific community. It's absurd, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things I can remember when I'm relatively young in the industry. I've only been in here for about 6 years. I grew up on a farm, but I've only been farming for about 6 years. And I can remember going to a presentation at Ames. We were on industry puts on a lot of different bus tours and information things and workshops. And I was getting involved in a lot of them in the early days to learn as much as I could. And I can remember going to Ames and seeing, we saw the whole institute and had a look. It's really impressive. And then we got a presentation by a lady there who I don't recall her name, though. That was when they were sure that, so the damage in that presentation, I can still remember it now. They said, the farmers, the water runoff coming out of the Burdekin is mainly soil, and so not so much fertilizer. It gets into the northern currents, heads up north, picks up everyone's nutrients along the way, and then encourages algae bloom or stranded starfish. So they bloom in the high nutrient waters. But that's since been disproven. So that was the last link that I'm aware of they had between farm runoff and any sort of actual damage. Apart from that, they've got evidence there that they're picking it up. But as far as I'm aware, that was the last link, which it has since been disproven. It's quite a few scientists have looked at it in different ways, and they've tried to replicate the findings and haven't been able to. So, yeah, it's so hard. Like we hear about how many times has the reef lost all 50% of its cover, and then it comes out again. But what Reed keeps saying is, hang on, let's go back and look at the coral growth rates at that place, that certain reef that was did suffer severe bleaching. Let's have a look at what it is now. And then if we take the data from that reef, and if it's, let's say it's recovered or it's recovered somewhat, do we then model that data across the whole reef and say, the coral growth rate on the reef is up by 50%? You know, there's so many ways that you can mislead data, and I've seen it within my own industry, and I could pick up two raw sets of data, and I could say, all right, well, this one proves my viewpoint, or this one proves mine, and they could be conflicting of each other.
Well, that's the point. As Bill mentioned earlier, data can be construed to whatever your narrative is, and you can take the same amount of data and basically come up with whatever answer you want people to believe. And I guess that's the point, isn't it? It's the truth that we want, and it's not necessarily what you think and what you want to be in policy form. And I think you're right, Mark. I just honestly think that the farmers of Central and North Queensland have just been the donkey getting poked from the bureaucratic animal that is in southeast Queensland. That it almost needs somebody to blame. And look, for the people that are out there tilling the soil, putting food on the plates, especially across the whole of the nation, it's just absurd that we should make your life any harder. We've had other guests in the agricultural sector come on the show in previous months, and we've even had a farmer up at Lakeland tell us some of the dealings that he's had to have when he just went to put a dam on his own land, and the bureaucratic process he had to go through to do that, which ultimately led him to go, you know what? I had 140,000 bankroll to be able to build this bloody thing, but it's going to cost me 250 by the time you're done with me. So he just didn't. And there goes the growth in his own business on that land due to the fact that he can't save a little bit of water when it's raining to be able to water it a little bit more when it's dry. And I guess that's just every farmer's straightforward approach to how they want to plan for their 12-month cycle, hey?
Yeah, it's hard. And I don't think there's a whole, like, the people working within these organisations, they genuinely believe what they're being told. And this is why I'm always open and happy to chat to anyone in the science community. I've got a lot of relatives, friends that are all work within those organisations, and I'm always happy to, or even anyone new, I invite people to come to the farm, see how it works, get a grasp of what's actually happening rather than what you've read, and then try and make the assumption based on that. Well, a lot of people don't know, and I always take the time to tell people this. Water does not run into the Burdekin River from the farming community of the Burdekin. Okay? So the Burdekin River, the banks of the Burdekin River are higher, and all the water runs away. So people would naturally think, you know, when you see the photo every time the Burdekin is a mighty river, and it does, when it's running the bank out, it's the volume of water coming out of there is just crazy. It's like 10 times Sydney Harbour every day or something. So it is phenomenal the amount of water that comes out of there, but people don't understand. If you're down south and you're a bit about the Burdekin or followed it a little bit, you would assume that all of our farm water runs off our paddocks into the creeks and into the Burdekin River and then out to the ocean. Whereas there's a tiny little catchment in one area which would pick up a little bit, but the whole of the Burdekin runs away from the river.
Well, and look, Mark, I guess I've got a question now, which is from a previous guest that we've had on the show as well, because I'm fairly sure, I can't remember the guest's name, unfortunately. It was about a month ago, but the Burdekin Dam from
Sean Jackson.
Sean Jackson, that's right. It was. Is he the one that said the Burdekin?
No, the Burdekin was Chris Welch.
Chris Welch, that's right, from Townsville. Who's in Townsville, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, Mark, what's your thoughts on the
That's right. And Sean Jackson was the farmer at Lakelands.
Thank you, Bill. I couldn't quite remember their names. I've got notes here, but I don't have their names written down. Mark, what's your thoughts on the fact that, I mean, regardless of all the impediments that farmers experience in the Burdekin at the moment when it comes to land management, vegetation management, whatever involvement from the state government as it may be, what's your thoughts on the fact that there is growth potential in the Burdekin area for the fact that the Burdekin Dam is essentially shovel-ready to be raised 15 metres? Because as far as we understand from talking with Chris Squelch, this should have happened years ago, and it hasn't. What's your thoughts on that, and the possibilities for the Burdekin area agriculturally, with if the Burdekin could have the funding approved to just be raised?
Yeah. So firstly, I'll probably correct you, but the Burdekin Dam Stage 2 is 2 metre raise, not 15. 15 metre raise on the Burdekin Dam. I don't know where that come from, but the 15 metre raise, geez, I don't even know what stage that would be, but stage 2 is just to put gates on top of the dam wall, which are another 2 metres, which is still a massive amount of water considering the catchment. But the issues are they always want to promote, let's build a new dam here, there, or wherever. But agriculture can't expand under the current regulation. You do. You've got to have I'm positive it's a net zero water quality coming off your property that's going on. So that's pretty hard. It's easy to do in a normal, and with it, when you're not in the wet season. But when you're in a wet season, you can't control the amount of rain that lands, and it has to go somewhere.
No, of course not.
With it, as far as irrigation goes, you can control that. So yeah, no, my thoughts, a lot of things get politicised, and I often don't like to comment as much on the dams just because I'm not across them enough, and sometimes you'll get people champion for, raise the dam, no, don't raise the dam. A lot of it, and unless you're across it, it's such a complex topic. I don't like to say the wrong thing and then be crucified otherwise for saying it, and that's why.
Mark, that's absolutely understandable, mate. The fact that you even just like, look, I know that the next stage is 2 metres, and you don't really have much comment on it, regardless of what you do or don't know. It's you made a fair point. If it was to be raised in the next 12 or X amount of years, it's like the regulation is still going to be there that's hindering agriculture. So what's the point? I guess we could say, not to go conspiracy theorists, I guess that's the way that they like it, because then they don't have to spend any money on infrastructure in Central and North Queensland building them.
I think the issue there, my understanding of Burdekin Stage 2 is to raise it 14 metres and put floodgates in. What's happened in the meantime, the state government's come back with a sort of counter. Well, let's put it up 2 metres, and then you can never and the way they're talking about it is then you can never have the other 12 metres on top. So it's a counter move. That 2 metres build is a counter move to stop getting basically puts you off from ever getting the extra 12 metres on top of that. So that's a bit of a problem. And the other thing is if Burdekin Stage 2 in its original form was, to bring it up to 14 metres and put floodgates in, you'd have a completely different system in regards to what the outflows are to the reef. Because with floodgates, you can at least mitigate for some time the amount of flow going out. But at the moment, the Burdekin Dam is not really a dam; it's a weir. In the true sense of the word, a weir's a solid block. It's got no floodgates, and then just when the river gets high enough, it just goes over the top. So I think the 2 metres story is a means to sort of stop you ever getting your 14 metres.
Yeah. So once again, I'm not across it that much. I've been there. It is a massive dam, and people they totally underestimate. Like in a full flood, the water's sometimes going over there 8 metres, a wall of water. It's just phenomenal. So, and there's a lot of arguments against it too. Like they raise the dam, well then there's less natural flow. I know they've got the gates there that they've let us through currently, and they control the flow. There's water coming all year round, but there's also issues with sand build up at the end. So it's a complex system. I just sometimes I try and steer out of that one.
Well, I guess Mark.
But I suppose the thing is, it still makes you wonder why the governments make you go through hoops when you're actually trying to create wealth or put in things to actually go to create wealth. They seem to be anti-wealth creation in the regions.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I guess
we wonder, we scratch our head.
I guess you could deal with the fact that if the Burdekin Dam is mighty as it is, I'm unfortunate enough never to have seen it yet. Not yet. But whether it's 2 metres or 14 metres, which is a big difference, as long as they don't find any concrete cancer in there, mate, and they come over with the bulldozers like they did Paradise, all is well, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, well, that's our biggest worry now. Not them raising them, but them dropping it. Because
exactly.
The dam is earmarked, as it is the same type of dam. So, anyway, it's just more. That's absolute ludicrous.
Yeah, we had Judy Plath on, who's a farmer in right near Paradise, and look, she was very enlightening to just how silly the whole situation is, and it's been very politicised, as you say, and fair enough and rightly so, Mark. That the whole discussion of dams sometimes can get way too into the political realm, where it's just like, just build it or just don't build it. It's either it doesn't need to be so complicated. It doesn't need to be this huge investment for something that's so lackluster, when it could have just been a medium investment and something quite solid, and everybody would have been happy. I think it's just absurd. And look, when I guess, Mark, this brings me into a conversation which I'm interested to hear your thoughts. We had a quick discussion about it just before when Bill and I were in the room, and I'm interested to hear your points and your thoughts on the fact that we're now, coming out of COVID, and as a primary producer, what are your thoughts on the fact that our state currently sitting at, $90-odd billion in debt, that, the books just got released by the Queensland government, and we're going to be in excess of $130 billion in debt within the next 6 years, I think it was, 4 to 6 years. What are your thoughts as one of the people that's out there on a daily basis with his neighbours trying to make a good quid of it, making money, paying taxes into the coffers, knowing that they're just spending it so willy-nilly that we're almost to the point of being $130 billion in debts? Do you have any thoughts on the current economic situation we find ourselves in?
Oh yeah, it's very scary. I know that much. We were really hoping for a better result coming out of the state election. However, we got it handed to us basically, and we're worse off for it. It will be interesting to see what comes out of Labor having a majority without the Green, without votes. So I'd love to see Labor come back and be more for the worker, and once again, once upon a time they were for small business, not in my era, but I've heard my father talk about it. He said once upon a time Labor used to, wasn't too bad. They were for small business. Let's see a bit of that back at least, and just get away from this green influence that's within the Labor Party, and that's what's doing it to us. None of the Labor MPs up in the regions are asking for the same stuff that we are for us, but they're not getting anywhere with it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the point, where they are, and ultimately we are, in the region, stuck in that two-party political system where they go and have a caucus, whether it's the Liberal Party or the Labor Party, and they're just as divided when they meet down there as they are on a national scale. When you have your little green sects, and I've heard stories about when the Labor Party meet in the southeast corner, when they break off after the group photo and have their little 20-person green sect, and then their 20-person union sect, and then their 20-person this sect. It's not good for us. It's not good for the people that are voting them in to try and get, just a general feeling of their community taken down to be able to vote on legislation which is going to benefit our communities. When in actual fact it's just too big. It's big party politics, and it's detrimental to everybody. I think that's part of the problem, the biggest problem, and that's part of the reason why some of us, like Bill and myself, and quite many people in Central and North Queensland, just believe we should be able to just start afresh in our own new state, where the distribution of representatives is more fair for the residents and communities of Central and North Queensland. Because currently, mate, when we see a government that meets with 93 representatives, government can just be formed in basically the CBD of Brisbane, and it's a scary thought when we know that should something like the Cross River Rail be promised on a 4-year basis. And then if it's once the Cross River Rail's built, whatever the next project is that benefits all the residents of the southeast corner, that'll get promised. They could make government election after election after election, and we just lose out. People like yourselves with policies that affect agriculture, people like ourselves that affect people coming to see the beautiful Great Barrier Reef because tourism's so important to Cairns. I think the system's broken in so many different ways. And look, when we have guests on like yourself that just hear about how much of a boxing bag they've become for state politics and bureaucracy in this state, it's just quite saddening. I think that's why we need to start fresh with a new parliament, personally.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Yeah, I find myself having these conversations all the time with whether it be people within industry or other businesses around the north, and we're just trying to say how can we get a bit more of our share of what's happening. It's always and what you guys are doing could be the answer. What I fear the most is the day that it comes, it too will be politicised, and one of the biggest things we're going to face is the fact that the general public will be up in arms because they're not going to be part of the Queensland State of Origin team. I don't know. That's my biggest one. It's going to be triple.
Mark, it's a very
dry series.
It's a very common one. Yeah. We just try and convey all the players of previous origins that have been from Central and North Queensland and been juniors in Central and North Queensland. And not all the stars of the State of Origin Queensland teams have always been from Central and North Queensland. We've had some bloody good ones. And if you were to put an All-Stars team together, it would definitely contest with the all-star teams of any New South Wales and South Queensland team that you could create. So I guess that's the point. You try and convey people, look, if you're going to whittle it down to this one issue of the State of Origin, wouldn't you be more excited about a third state to make it more exciting? Because, I mean, hell, I know as a Central and North Queensland, I'd much rather be parochial and supportive of a team that I know is from a community that's within an 8-hour drive as opposed to 20 hours drive away. So that's just my thoughts. But it's funny you say that, Mark. It's a common answer. It's a common reply.
But that's not. I'm saying that. Yeah, my point is that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The fact that even gets brought into the argument, but that is what will happen because when you have control of a lot of the media and they want to get whatever message out, and the general public is, what are we going to get out of it? And rather than, one of the best things I saw, it was when you had the rally last year up in Townsville, and I saw my father-in-law and I talk about it quite often over a beer and have a chat and say, I wonder what the amount of money that's made up here and the amount of money that's spent. I'd always love to know that. And then I saw they handing out flyers at the rally and I saw it and I grabbed it, take it home, and I was like, oh, look, here's that data we've always been wondering about. So it's good. We're just going to keep getting it out there.
Well, that's the point, mate.
I think that's one of the things people don't.
We punch above our weight.
I think a lot of people don't understand exactly how much wealth is generated in Central and North Queensland in comparison. There's real wealth and new wealth as wealth creation. Like when you grow a product on your land and you sell it, well, that's new wealth. Now, Southeast Queensland has economy, but it's in the service industries and things like that, and it's basically recycling money around. Whereas in Central and North Queensland, most of our industry in the primary industries, we're actually creating new wealth, like the export of our minerals and that is real valuable export dollars that gives us foreign currency that keeps our head above water as a nation. Now, if it wasn't for West Australia's iron ore and Queensland's coal, our foreign money inflow would be very, very poor. And that's basically what keeps our trade and our currency much as high as it is. If we didn't have those industries that were bringing in that wealth, and it goes for cattle, and it goes for wheat, and it goes for cane and every other product we export. that is really the cornerstone in regards to ensuring our wealth in the international realms of monetary system. So, and I think some of the figures you may have seen in that brochure, it's like the sea exports or merchandising exports. Of the total of about $79 billion going out of Queensland as merchandising from our seaports, nearly $65 billion comes from Central and North Queensland. I mean, that is nothing to sneeze about. And when you compare it to places like South Australia, their sea exports is less than $12 billion, and Tasmania is less than $5 billion. So you can see we're well up there, punching well above our weight in regards to that sort of economy, and we certainly have the potential to generate the revenue we need to run ourselves. So I don't think the monetary things are a problem, but what people have to see more as a benefit is the fact that you'll now be voting in. You'll have a state with approximately 1 million people, and all those 1 million people will have politicians that are completely answerable to them. At the moment, you're 1 million people within 5 million people parliament, and you can't keep those 73 members from the southeast Queensland. You can't pull them to account and vote them out. So I think that's the big thing that people have got to understand. That's the real value in a separate state, is you have representation that you can hold accountable and acts in your best interest. And now the farmers of Central Queensland, instead of being, say there's 100,000 people involved in farming and support of farming, well, you're 100,000 of 5 million people. Well, you've got to be 100,000 of just 1 million people in the new state. So that gives you a lot more clout. So they're the advantages you've got to look at. And the other thing a lot of people don't think about is you get 12 senators as well. If you're a separate state, imagine having 12 Matt Canavans going down to Canberra and kicking the door open down there for you. I think you'd be a lot better off.
What's the actual situation down there, Mark? We are approaching an hour as well. I just wanted to mention, gentlemen, and we don't want to take too much time out of your evening, Mark. No doubt you're pretty bloody tired after working, harvesting the field and whatnot. But what's your thoughts on the fact that a Labor government has been returned into Queensland? Just quickly, just briefly, and the fact that, like, even then you look in places like Bundaberg, it really came down to the last 10 votes. From what I heard, the last I heard was 6 votes or something that the Labor representative won in Bundaberg. But like, what are your thoughts on the fact that the Queensland Labor really did get Queensland Liberal Party did get a spanking, and what it means for basically regional Queensland going forward? Because that traditional sense of the National Party and those Joe Bielke Peterson years that really brought it home for the whole of the state and for regional Queensland, saw massive growth and opportunity extended out beyond the southeast corner. With that now gone, with the National Party being gobbled up years ago, what is your thoughts on the options of regional Queensland now that the Liberal National Party seems to be in tatters?
Yeah, we were all left scratching our head after the election results, wondering the same thing. So basically, you're getting, as the Liberal LNP in a way has lost its way a little bit, and it's going more L and less N. I feel a lot of the die in the ditch national supporters have started to have protest votes and vote for the minor parties, which is all good when they get in. And we are getting some good representation out of the minor parties, absolutely, but it's not enough to. We need to stop this infighting within the minor parties and the LNP. The whole campaign. I heard, and I've got a lot of time for Robbie Katter and the Katters, but all they did was bash the LNP the whole time, and then I heard very little negative about the Labor Party, because Yeah, we need to try and all the Conservatives, let's work together more so like Labor and the Greens do. But we're not really doing that, and it goes both ways. You know, the LNP, they're competing for the same votes, therefore they're competitors, and they're really at each other's throats the whole election, and it's not helping either of them helping the LNP get into power, that's for sure. But you know, we started Farmers United. It's an advocacy group we started about a month before, and just to give you an idea, like it was a grassroots group, and we started just with the hope to help get LNP back into power and try and get rid of Labor, basically, because we thought, you know, agriculture's going to be bugging with another 4 years of Labor. With the next rollout of regulation and everything that is supposed to be coming, we're so worried for our futures, and we campaigned hard. And that campaign alone, in 1 month, we raised about $110,000. So that was farmers and townspeople and everyone else and the general community reaching into their pockets to try and help. And we ran a really good campaign, so it was quite a kick in the guts to get the result we got. So I don't know. A lot of the data's pointing that, you know, during pandemics and crises, the status quo remains when it comes to people voting, that they're not willing to take too many risks. So some of us might want to put it down to that, and others might want to put it down to the LNP campaign and whether or not it was good enough, or, you know, whether or not Deb, she's resigned now, but whether or not, you know, the campaign was pushed as hard as it should have been.
Well, I think it's a multifaceted reason, and COVID was definitely one of them. But I think you touched on most of them there, Mark. Yeah, Bill, what were you about to say? Sorry.
Well, it's just with the merger of the LNP. I don't think it's possible for a Brisbane-based party to write policy or draft legislation that is both in the best interest of the people of South East Queensland and the best interest of people in regional Queensland, because I think they're diametrically opposed. The wants of the people in South East Queensland is vastly different from the needs of the people in regional Queensland. Like, we're still worried about water security. We're worried about real garbage roads. You know, we haven't got a lot of things that we need, whereas they're putting a lot of, well, my analogy, decorating it with centres, tunnels all over the place and that sort of stuff. And we haven't even got the ingredients for the cake. And that's my analogy between South East Queensland and regional Queensland. And I don't believe any Brisbane-based party can write legislation to satisfy both sectors. I believe we need to go back to a party that's North Queensland party, whether it's the rebuild of what the Nationals were, that can write its own policy and then get members elected because they really represent the people of regional Queensland, and then they go down to Brisbane and work with both parties to get things done for what they need. Because if you look at the thing, if we've still got a situation where we at least have 17 seats, and there's not too many Queensland parliaments where they hold power by more than about 4 or 5 seats. I mean, the Newman government was an oddity, but in most instances, I mean, most of the parliaments in the last 40 years have only had sort of majorities from, you know, they've actually had a couple of hung parliaments. You actually had some with the last parliament was only had two members majority. So there is a chance, if we have a good solid revamp of a national or a party that's a bit more widely accepted as a regional based party, to get those seat numbers to hold that bounce of power, well, first we'll get our way, and second we'll get a separate state. Of course, we'll push them to give us a separate state. But like I say, there's a separate state is the complete solution. Anything else is just a filler until the next majority government. But the other thing that came out of the election, I think, is also scary, is that although they only got one more seat, the Greens have now doubled their vote, their number of representatives, and they're going to keep growing in that southeast corner simply because, you know, it's a master place of growing greens, much different to the greens we grow up here. But the thing is, now they're going to have twice as much time in Parliament to put their stuff in. They'll have, you know, twice the effort of putting their own bills across. So it's only going to get worse. I mean, it could have been worse if the Labor had depended on them for holding a minority government, but I don't think it's going to be any better with their voice getting stronger and stronger as time goes on.
And that comes down to the simple thing of representation, Mark. And like you say, if even from an agricultural point of view, when you feel like you're banging your head against the wall as an industry, and when you talk to your fellow farmers, and when it comes to why are they doing this to us when all we do is make money for them and try and actively grow our communities, it's because we don't have that clout. Bill mentioned that earlier. We don't have that clout. We don't have that representatives. We've only got 17 people from these areas of regional Queensland that go and convey what our communities need. And whether they are have the best of intentions being a Labor representative or a Liberal National representative, they're still going to get patted on the head and told, now, toe the party line. And when all the seats that form government are 90% or more from these areas, which are fighting something like the resurgence, or not resurgence, the coming up of people like the Greens Party, which is only growing in number and strength, it's a scary thought to think that agricultural people like yourself and from people like myself up in Cairns that understand the complexities of regional living and the dependence on the agricultural sector. None of that makes sense to anybody that has grown up and lives in Brisbane. And they only see the fact that their local economy with the recycling money is the thing that matters most, and growing something to sell it when it's new money just doesn't, unless it's smashed avo on a plate. So I guess ultimately we're in a predicament, and we definitely see that the solution to the whole problem as being the creation of a new state and having a smaller parliament that represents us more locally and fairly, and giving us a louder voice to be able to actually vie for the funds needed for these major nation-building projects like dams, like, you know, a better Bruce Highway, like things that'll actively make us safer on the roads, like things that'll generate more revenue. And the fact is, if the status quo continues, we're not going to have it. And Mark, to be quite honest, mate, it could easily only get worse. And I'm not being a negative naysayer there, mate. It sounds like you're a little bit on the same path there with them being pragmatic about it. But it'll be interesting to see what they can come up with going into the future, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got to keep working towards, you know, sharing our story, helping educate people of what happens on the land, and trying to get some more rigorous things around quality assurance within science and the Oscar. You know, as far as a separate state goes, yeah, that's totally a potential solution that I think it's just going to take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to take people. It's going to take more people losing money maybe to see it.
Yeah, well, hopefully not too much and not too long away. Hey, not too far away. But listen, I must say we've taken an hour nearly out of your evening, Mark. We don't want to carry it too much longer because obviously you've probably got family and you're tired. You probably want to have a couple of beers and just chill out and go to sleep. But I've got one more question. It's to do with the fact that you guys started at your own movement to be able to try and support those representatives. It sounds like predominantly the LNP. Are you guys associated with, and I don't mean to step on any toes, are you guys associated with, or were you a branch of the Green Shirts movement that sprouted up down there in Central Queensland, or do you guys sort of just do your own thing in a similar fashion, or do you guys talk, or what's the go?
Yeah, we like to work quite closely with the green shirts. We love what they do. Farmers United is sort of more of a northern branch in a way. We are completely separate entities, and we each do our own thing, but we like to collaborate on as many things as possible. We think it's important to have, some people might think, oh, are you just trying to replicate what they're doing? And not in a way. In a way, yeah, we have the same goals and want to do the same thing, probably doing a few things a bit differently, but we do work closely with them, and I love what they're doing. And I've had a lot to do with Marty Balla, and he's a very passionate man, and I love seeing him at different things, and we quite often have a chat, to be honest. And yeah, we're just trying to do the same things. We're trying to get a voice out for our growers. We're sick of collectives spending the time on the party line as well, because they've got to go and work with government. And when you look at the fact that Labor government has been in how long? Is it 20 out of the last 25 years or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's why they're not too keen on coming out and bashing them the way we do.
Look, it's funny.
We don't hold back.
Oh, you know what, Mark? It's whether it's us up here in Cairns and Townsville trying to just educate the population as to how much things could be better in a new state, or whether it's you guys down there in the green shirts just trying to get the right representatives that are going to voice your concerns in the best way you can see possible. We all just want what's best for our local communities and our regions, and it shouldn't be so hard, should it, mate? And that's ultimately the saddest thing about it. We only want to see our local communities prosper. And, I'm sure down there, just as much as we are up here, some of our smaller communities are just dwindling down to the most various components that were once thriving agricultural communities. And it's just sad. And, it's a great part of the world that we live in, arguably, with a bit of bias, somewhere like Cairns, and I'm sure you're the same down there in the Burdekin. We live in the best place in the world, mate. And to not want to actually advertise the fact that there's growth and opportunity here, and people should want to move here and raise their children here and, have them go to school with our own children is just absurd. And for it all to be about the one community show like somewhere in Brisbane, or Sydney if you lived in regional New South Wales, or Melbourne if you lived in regional Victoria, is just absolutely sad. We have our voice. It should be heard, and it's currently not being heard enough. And kudos to the organisations like yourselves, the Farmers United, as well as the Green Shirts, and that just do your best, raise the funds, and have your say. So, look, I've got nothing but admiration and respect for the things you guys do, and well done. I know it wasn't an outcome that none of us can be happy with when it comes to the fact that, a Labor government's been returned that's ultimately anti-regions, but it is what it is. And look, I guess with that, have you got any final comments you'd like to make before we wrap up tonight's show? And Bill, actually, we might as well have Bill. Bill, have you got anything, just sort of finishing thoughts or questions for Mark?
Yeah, I'll get something to give. I'm sorry, Mark, I'm going to give you a bit of a nightmare to think of. In New South Wales, we've got the same situation that there's now west of the Great Divide. There's only 10 state seats in New South Wales out of the 93 west of the Great Divide. So they're suffering the same problem as we are in regards to representation. And we're speaking with David Landini a month or so ago on this program, and he's the founder of the Riverina State Party, a group that's trying to get a separate state as well. And he had this little bit of knowledge for us. There's more Green voters in the triangle of Newcastle, Sydney and Wollongong than there are entire voters west of the Great Divide. So how scary is that as time goes by to think in maybe a decade or more, there'll be more Green voters in southeast Queensland than the entire voter population of central and north Queensland. So I hope that doesn't keep you awake at night.
Yeah, that is pretty scary. But the funny thing is, we're here growing their food. I grow soybeans for all the vegans that eat their protein.
Let's go.
Crazy. It's like,
Let's go.
But they get them from the shop. They go to the supermarket. They don't go to the farm.
Yeah. They don't pay attention to Mark. They don't pay attention to the little branding. They don't pay attention to the little mark in the branding that says Mark Vass soybeans, proudly Burdekin grown. They don't give a shit about that. And that's ultimately the sad point. They just don't understand.
It's crazy. I just find people just do not want to accept responsibility for their actions, and whichever side of the argument you sit on with climate change, I think there's always an argument to be made about pollution. Absolutely, let's try and reduce it as much as possible. That way we're up here doing as much as we can. All that carbon in the atmosphere gets used up by our crops and put back into the soil. A lot of people don't realise that either. It's crazy.
Yep.
Farming is one way of transferring carbon from the atmosphere into the soil.
Yep.
And we're making our soils healthy by doing it. It's just ludicrous.
Well, look, do you have, Mark?
I love giving as much education as you can.
Mark, do you have any finishing thoughts or comments you'd like to make? Because we don't want to take too much time any more time out of your evening. Thanks very much for joining us. Any finishing thoughts or comments?
No, I think we've covered it all. Yeah. So thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to following the podcast into the future.
Oh, good on you, Mark. Look, we'll finish it up there so you can get back to your family and finish off your day. Look, anyone that may be listening, that was Mark Vass, our special guest from down in the Burdekin. And if you'd like to learn more, and if you live in that area, I'm sure in future elections you could look up the Farmers United Facebook page or website. I'm sure you could be able to find that nice and easy. Is there a website for you guys, Mark?
Yeah, it's just farmersunited.com.au, and follow us on our Facebook. We're constant updates.
Yeah. As usual, the Facebook community is probably the best way to get in touch with them if you want to get involved in the next 4 years or coming up to the next election cycle. If you live down there in Central Queensland, they do great work when it comes to just trying to promote their local community. So look them up if you're down there if you're interested in getting involved. Likewise, if you'd like to learn more about the campaign to create a new state and better representation for Central and North Queensland, you can visit our Facebook page, bootbrisbane.com, where there's constant community involvement and conversation about the idea. We talk about the historical context as well as what could be the future for Central North Queensland should we attain a new state. Thanks to North Queensland State Facebook page as well, which is basically the sponsor of this evening's podcast, where they're a sister Facebook page which is about the same topic of state creation for Central North Queensland. So thank you to them. Also on Monday nights there's another podcast by our amazing colleague Matt Maloney, called Northern Vibe, where he has amazing guests just like we had Mark Vass on tonight, and basically talk about everything and anything in the communities of the regions. And with that, I guess, thank you very much for listening. Thank you again, Mark, for taking time out of your busy evening or week. Good luck tomorrow if it's another long day, mate. Take it nice and easy. Look forward to meeting you in the future, hopefully, and thank you for coming on.
No worries. Thanks again, guys. See you later.
And good evening, Bill.
Good night, Mark. Good night.
Good night.
Evening, gents. See you later.